Hey everyone, this is Dr. Bill Rankus with Movement First Physical Therapy, and I am joined today by Ashley Acornley. She is the owner of Fueled and Fit. She is a registered dietitian, a AFAA certified personal trainer, and a specialist in sports dietetics. She does work with people who want to lose weight and gain muscle mass and get overall healthy. She just came off of doing a 30-day quarantine challenge, which has been helping people get moving during the quarantine in 2020. Thank you for being on with me, Ashley. I'd love to give you the opportunity to kind of just introduce yourself, who you are, and kind of what got you to today.
Sure. Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited for this opportunity. My name's Ashley Acornley. I'm the owner of Fueled and Fit LLC, which is a private practice in Cary, North Carolina. Just a little bit of background about myself. I grew up in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and ended up moving down to the Raleigh area a little over 10 years ago to pursue graduate school, and have my graduate degree in nutrition as well. And the focus of my practice is basically just to help my clients make sustainable, long-lasting changes with their nutrition, their health, and their fitness, focusing in on one of those factors or culminating all of them together. I have been a dietitian for about 10 years and a personal trainer for close to 13 years now. So I absolutely love what I do. I love helping out my clients on a daily basis. And, things have just been kind of interesting with the whole quarantine over the past couple of months, kind of shifting my business model and finding new ways to help out people along the way during this time. But it's been challenging, but also fun and rewarding at the same time.
That's great. I always like to learn about, I didn't realize that you were a personal trainer before you got into become a dietitian. What kind of got you into that mindset? What made you feel like you wanted to get into being a dietitian and even a personal trainer?
Yeah, that's a good question. And it took me a little bit to finally end up in the nutrition field. But I was always really athletic as a kid. I loved playing sports. I loved watching all kinds of sports, and learned early on in high school that exercise and being involved in some sort of sport community really was a positive aspect in my life and really helped with some of the stress and anxiety that I dealt with as a kid. So it just kind of transitioned into adulthood. So when I entered college, I either wanted to be a physical therapist or a personal trainer or some combination of the two. So that's what I initially pursued in college. Along the way, I took a general course on nutrition. It was like a nutrition 101 class at Penn State, and absolutely fell in love with it. So I kind of, at that point, shifted my focus to more nutrition. And then I ended up with a minor in kinesiology. So my love for sports is still kind of incorporated because I learned more about how I can integrate sports with nutrition and teach my clients more about how to fuel their bodies if they're exercising. So in college, I had a internship in North Carolina with for a personal training and nutrition kind of dual internship. So that's where I got my personal trainer cert. And that was, I think, back in 2007. So that was a long time ago. And then more recently, just got my credentials, my CSSD credentials, which is basically the board certification for a dietitian to become certified in sports dietetics. So I'm dual certified and really love working with clients on the athletic side of things. And that could be fueling your body. It could be losing weight. It could be gaining muscle mass. It could be performance and recovery. I mean, there's so many different elements to sports nutrition to work with clients with.
Wow, that's a great story. That's really cool. Before we get into kind of how you work with people, what sports did you play, and are you still participating in them?
Yeah. So in high school, I played tennis and softball. I still play tennis and softball to this day. Tennis kind of recreationally whenever I get the opportunity, but softball I play in a co-ed league right now,
Cool.
and have, for the past 7-8 years, I would say.
Yeah.
Not uber competitive, but enough just to, keep me going in the right direction with softball and keeping my skills sharp.
Sure. Keep the competitive juices flowing for sure.
Yeah.
I understand that. Yeah. Let's see. So when it comes to diet and fitness, I always hear that you can't work out a bad diet. And so how often do you see people that, or people come to you that are like, yeah, I want some personal training? Or have you experienced people who have had personal training and then they just completely miss out on the diet portion, and that might be why they haven't had the success?
Yeah, I see that majority of the time, I would say. It is a very big misconception that you can just start exercising and all of a sudden, you're gaining a bunch of muscle, you're losing a bunch of fat, everything just kind of, works itself out in that way. And no one really wants to focus in on the diet. If you're working with a personal trainer who doesn't have the certification to be a dietitian, personal trainers cannot really provide extensive advice by law. So you really do want to be working with somebody, whether it is somebody who's dually certified or somebody who also has the nutrition component, whether it's a separate professional or whatnot, to zone in on that diet and make sure that all that hard work you're putting into your workouts is in the long run going to work out for you, because you're also putting the work, in the kitchen, in your meal prep.
Yeah.
Diet is probably 80% of a person's success and overall results. And training is obviously very important for many different health reasons, but it's probably equating to about 20% of a person's results if you're looking at like weight loss and changing your body composition.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Yeah, that's incredible. It's interesting you say that, because I have also seen that, like, lifting and exercising to some people can be the fun part, right? It's like, yeah, this is great. I can go exercise all day. I can run for an hour or whatever. But I can't get rid of this chubby, this chubby physique. And it's really what it is the hard part of being disciplined and maintaining that balanced diet. What about people's diets, when it comes to them working out and missing out on that, do you feel like is the biggest culprit? What do you think is the thing that people kind of are misinformed about, or assuming that they might be a little bit uninformed about, that is holding them back?
I think ultimately it all boils down to consistency. A lot of times I see clients go with this all or nothing approach. So they view diet as you're either 100% on the wagon or you're 100% not on the wagon. And there's no like gray area in between that. And in my opinion, and the approach I use with a lot of my clients is to break away from that all or nothing approach, because it's not getting you anywhere. You're just yo-yoing back and forth. And when you're yo-yoing, especially with your weight, that could be even more detrimental to your health in the long term. So if you lose 10 pounds, but then you regain 12, and then you lose 12 pounds, but then you regain 15 pounds, that classic cycling is never good for your health. And that's what happens when somebody uses an all or nothing approach, from what I've seen over the years. So, kind of encouraging people to create consistency by delving into that gray area and finding a good balance of, generally eating a healthy diet with a lot of good nutrients, lean proteins, anti-inflammatory foods, but then allowing yourself the grace to enjoy a treat here and there, and when you develop that consistency, that's where the results are, because it's creating that long-term success, not just focusing on, how extreme can I be for the next week, because that's about as long as it lasts. Not many people can hold on to an extreme diet for very long.
Yeah, that's really interesting that you say that. How do you find that the yo-yo dieting or the yo-yo lifestyle is detrimental to the health, you said?
In a lot of different ways, but if you're looking at someone's body composition, if you're looking at their metabolism or their lab values. So by lab values, I mean if you go to the doctor and they run a panel on you for your cholesterol and they're testing your blood pressure and all of those typical values that you're getting tested, your blood sugar, those get really wonky over the course of time if you're constantly yo-yoing.
Hmm.
The main one I see is metabolism. So if this is kind of a little bit off topic here, but if for those who have seen the Biggest Loser competitions on TV they're still on, but they used to be like wildly popular 10, 15 years ago. All of those people did fantastic by losing over 100 pounds and had a really regimented diet, and they did awesome and it was great. But what happened when they researched these clients over the long term after they were completed with these shows, they actually studied them and they found that almost all of them regained the weight and then some. And the reason why is they're reducing their metabolic rate to such a low degree that when they're reducing their calories and reducing and over exercising, your metabolism slows down to try and compensate for all of that. With that being said, when you're released from this show or your program or your extreme diet, your metabolism's so low that the second you start eating over that amount, or the second you go back to your normal lifestyle, your body's like a sponge. It just wants to soak up everything and reabsorb all of that all over again in even a faster manner. So fat gets put on faster. Energy gets a little bit slower. Everything kind of cascades really quickly. So if you're not staying strict for that long of a period of time, your metabolism just gets wrecked and your metabolism stays low, but you're over consuming. And then the weight gain comes back on quicker and faster. And that just will alter all of your lab values as well.
Yeah. Wow. Is that the same? Is the same true for fasting? I know that is something that is popular out there as intermittent fasting, and it sounds to me what you're saying is, if you don't stick to the thing that you're doing, that consistency that you mentioned, if you don't stick to that, that's when things kind of get wonky, and I guess essentially the yo-yo. Would that be the same then? So if you're doing that intermittent fasting and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, I'm not going to do the intermittent fasting anymore, and would that create some of those metabolism issues that it starts to absorb everything it can because you haven't been giving it that?
I think there needs to be a little bit more research done in the whole intermittent fasting, world. But if we're talking about the classic intermittent fasting where you're eating for about 8 hours and you're fasting for the rest of it, you're in enough of a pattern and a cycle where I wouldn't necessarily see anything dramatic happen if a person goes from intermittent fasting to, just a regular style of eating. However, I would probably see some differences if a person's fasting for the extended periods of time. So there are some styles of intermittent fasting where you're going a full 24, 48 hours, sometimes even 72 hours without eating. In that case, I can't guarantee it because I'm not looking at the research right in front of me, but I would say that there's a good chance that you're probably wrecking your metabolism. That metabolism level is probably lowering over time. By the time you go back to a regular pattern of eating, the body's going to be craving, more fuel.
Sure. Yeah. Wow. We'll put an asterisk on that comment. Don't worry.
Yeah.
Must see research for sure. Wow. That's really interesting. Yeah. I've seen lots about intermittent fasting, and I know there are many different types and different ways of going about. We won't get into that today. Maybe another time as learning about diet and nutrition and everything is very interesting to me and hopefully other people because they want to get well. But I want to kind of keep going and learn about you and your practice. Within your practice, you mentioned the consistency and then the mindset of all or nothing, how do you as a clinician address that? How do you get people on board with consistency, or what types of ways do you find yourself helping people to break that cycle or improve their ability to be consistent?
I think it could greatly vary depending on the person. So, you know, when I'm meeting somebody virtually or in person, you know, depending on whether we're in quarantine or not, I'm kind of getting a feel for the type of person that they are. So I like to get a feel of, you know, how all or nothing might they be? What has their history been with weight loss and dieting, and, you know, what kind of goals are they setting? I just get like a good feel for what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
And then how I kind of bust through that initially is doing a lot of motivational interviewing. So that's a coaching technique that I've kind of learned over the years, that allows you to ask questions that don't provide yes or no answers. So it just kind of expands the conversation, allows some more thinking to be going on, and allows the client to actually make more active decisions in their goal setting and their overall health. So instead of me just directly telling them, you need to eat this many calories, you need to do this, you need to do that, I'm asking them what's important to them. What do they value? What do they see that's doable for their lifestyle? And I kind of run through a course of, you know, questions to kind of challenge them on things. You know, if they were so all or nothing in the past, well, what has happened in the past? Like, did you regain that weight? Did you stop exercising? Did you find it too overbearing and challenging, and you just kind of quit cold turkey because you were putting too much on your plate at one point?
Mm-hmm.
You know, I kind of challenge them on those old ways of thinking to kind of break through to the new.
That's great.
The other thing I do too is I'm huge on accountability. So in order for you to be consistent, especially in the beginning, you need to have some form of accountability. That could be a spouse, that could be a child, that could be your fitness instructor, it could be a teacher, it could be anybody. But, you know, for a lot of people, when they come to see me, they're seeing me because they need somebody to hold them accountable. Like they've kind of run out of options, or maybe their options are not great at holding them accountable. So, you know, they're coming to a health professional who can actually coach them through this. And we have weekly, biweekly, monthly sort of check-ins to make sure that the goals that we have set are achievable and they're getting there. So without goals and without accountability and without consistency, you're not really getting anywhere.
Right.
So those are all super important.
That's really great. And how long, in getting all of those things to kind of get the ball rolling and get on, you know, get things really going for your client, how long do you think that takes when it comes to visits, weeks? Or, I mean, I'm sure it depends. Each person's a little bit different. But do you kind of have like a set kind of, all right, we got to break these things down in order to get to this before you start implementing, or do you implement as you kind of break things down?
I generally implement as we start breaking things down. It all depends on the person I'm working with and the barriers that they might be working with. For instance, I have so many clients that will initially email me or want to work with me, and they say, like, I just want a diet plan. Like, I'm just emailing you because I need to meet with you and get a diet plan for me to lose weight. But in reality, the diet plan's great, and I'm more than happy to provide diet plans for clients. But there also needs to be the understanding that there's a lot that we need to work through in order to get you to that diet plan. Because I could hand you a piece of paper and say, here's your diet plan, and you might follow it for 2 days. But what happens if you don't feel good one day? What happens if you don't get your workout in? What happens if your birthday is coming up or you're going on a trip? You know, you can't just follow this meal plan day in and day out for the rest of your life.
Right.
There's things that happen in life.
Right.
There's emotions, there's celebrations, there's illnesses. There's a million different things that get thrown our way. So the purpose of the nutrition coaching and the nutrition counseling is the understanding of these are all the challenges we got to work through in order to get you to this meal plan.
Right.
And the most successful clients that I see are the ones who are working with me long-term, like not just one session. They're working with me for 6 months, a year, whatever it takes to get into this groove of hashing out all of these challenges that happen in a person's life.
Right. Peeling away those layers of onion that we fix this and then this pops up. We fix this and this pops up and it's holding you back. And when you figure that out, that's when you really get in the groove and start seeing those huge results.
Yeah, exactly.
That's awesome. Yeah, that I can totally relate to that because, as a therapist, there are some physical therapists who just hand out sheets of paper and say, here's your exercises for your shoulder. Do them. If it doesn't help, you can go talk to the surgeon. But it's like, there are a lot of different things that go into it, whether it's mentally, whether it is something else in their body that's causing issues, and really breaking down the layers and figuring out, okay, what is creating this issue, is I think as important, if not more important, than the actual strategy that you do or the plan that you follow. It's really cool that you say that, because I think it's important to get down to the root of the issue so that people can break through the issues and break that chain of yo-yo and break that chain of all or nothing, and really take control of their life and their health and their wellness. So that's really great that you do that.
Yeah, it's all about getting to the root, like you said. A diet plan or exercises that you get from PT are very like surface level, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
And they're helpful and they're wonderful tools, but there's all of these other things that you have to tackle that are in a person's life. And what's really unique about my job, and I'm sure your job as well, is like everybody is different. So you can't just go into every session assuming that everybody's lived the same life and has the same triggers and the same challenges. So that's what makes everything really interesting for me, is peeling back those layers and learning the unique circumstances that everyone's under so that you could help them in a more positive way.
Yeah, it's so important. It's so important. We're going to change gears a little bit. I want to know a little bit about the things that you love about taking care of your patients. We talked about kind of how you take care of them, some of your thought processes about it, but I want to know why you love taking care of your patients.
Yeah, I think I'm just by nature a bit of a caretaker. I always have been, so I think that's just kind of naturally transitioned into my career life. But I love being able to make a positive impact in someone's life. So I have the ability with being a dietitian or a trainer to take a negative situation like a diagnosis, a medical condition, weight gain, you name it, like anything that might be perceived as negative in somebody's life, and trying to turn that into a positive. So that is super enjoyable in my daily job. I also love the ability to support people through their journey every step of the way. So like I said, one of my philosophies of my own practices, I really don't encourage people coming in just for one visit and that's it. I encourage developing that relationship. So I have patients who have very drastic and wonderful results over the course of like a year or 2 years. They might lose 100 pounds. They might, get rid of all of their medications that they might be taking. They can run a 5K for the first time ever. There's so many different accomplishments that can happen over the course of time. And it's really exciting to see somebody go through that journey and kind of like walk alongside with them and see how it's going. And it's also really fun being a dietitian and trainer because I get to be around food all the time, which is super yummy and delicious and fun. And just help others improve their relationship with food and exercise. Most people perceive exercise as something bad, like it's dreadful. They hate doing it. And I love telling or teaching people that it can be fun. And other times food's seen as super celebratory and, oh, food's so bad for me, I shouldn't be eating it. And I love teaching people that there's fun and delicious ways that we could prepare food where, you can have a healthy relationship with food and still see results.
Yeah, that's great. You bring up celebration, and that makes me think of being at parties. Being a physical therapist, if I'm out in public, I get, it's just a habit that I see someone and see how they're walking and start to try and figure out, okay, what's going on with them. Do you ever find yourself at a party or at a get together that has certain types of food and say, well, we could have done a little different this way, or could have maybe not with the sour cream dip? You ever find yourself kind of critiquing the menu at all?
Yes and no. I mean, in my opinion, celebration should, be all about celebrating. It
Right.
shouldn't be about, judging the food per se. But yes, I mean, I do have a background in, meal prepping and menu preparation and selection and things like that. So yeah, there's always that like element of me that's kind of reviewing that. But speaking of like parties and get-togethers, if I'm meeting new people and I tell them I'm a dietitian, usually the first thing I hear is, "Oh, so you must only eat healthy food. You must not eat anything good, or you got to make me a meal plan someday, or you got to help me lose weight."
Sure.
So it's one of those like kind of awkward at times, like conversation starters where it's like, well, I try and help people improve their body image and their relationship with food, not necessarily being like the food police and telling them to never eat anything good or anything like that's a treat or celebratory.
Yeah, that's really great. I'm happy you said that, because it's you're right. It is important to not necessarily kind of always have that guard up there and think that these things are bad, and it's wonderful that you do help people try and overcome them, but also accept them at the same time. So that's really great.
Yeah, it's a fine balance, really. You don't want to be overindulging all the time, but you certainly don't want to be overly restricting, because that can create some disordered eating patterns as well. So it's truly finding that balance.
Yeah, which again kind of ties into getting into the mud and figuring out what's causing it all.
Yeah.
What do you think makes you a little bit different than some of the other people in your field?
I definitely think, I mean, kind of like transitioning from that last question you asked about parties and things like that. One of the general assumptions about dietitians is that we're the food police. I can't tell you how many times a person walks into my office and they're nervous, and I want them to be relaxed and feel comfortable. And by the end of the session, they're like, "Oh, I thought you were going to tell me that I wasn't allowed to eat these certain foods, or that, it was bad that what I was eating, or I should just be eating fruits and vegetables only and nothing else." We have our culture and society has these like generalized perceptions that I'm just there to scold them on what they're eating. So I like to break away from that pattern, because there are, I mean, truth be told, there's plenty of dietitians out in the world that have that sort of mentality, and they're there to, try and keep you on track and restrict the amount of, quote unquote bad foods that you're eating. I like to take more of a non-judgmental approach, a more flexible approach. And I don't provide anything that's cookie cutter. So I don't provide the same meal plan to, all of my clients. I customize things as much as I possibly can, depending on their situation. So I think what might differ or differentiate me from other dietitians is I'm a lot more personable. I actually listen. I keep that positive attitude, and I try and take that focus away from the, not what you should be avoiding, but more like what are some things that we can include to make this more of a healthy lifestyle for you.
Yeah. It sounds like you deal a lot with people's relationship with food and their habits. Would you say that's true?
Yeah. Maybe not during the initial session, but at some point, yes, it comes to that, because clients will eventually realize, oh, food is actually like emotional. What I eat, there's a level of, emotion related to that.
Yeah, that's great. Kind of piggybacking off of what you just said, would you say that that is something that you feel like you wish you could change about by being a dietitian, or dietitians across the country, is that maybe having less of that food police perception among the public? Would you say that that's something that is something that you'd like to change?
Absolutely. Yeah. There's a few different things that I would want to change within our field, but that is one of them, is just the generalized perception of what we do or what our philosophy is. I think over the course of time, especially with virtual counseling becoming more available, and dietitians kind of delving more into the private practice field, I think we're over time going to break that, and that's exciting to look forward to. But I also think that dietitians get kind of pigeonholed into all we do is tell people to eat fruits and vegetables. All we do is just, tell you to eat from my plate and the food pyramid and things like that from the old days. And that's all we do, is just go in the office and we tell them to do that. And people are just automatically supposed to eat more fruits and vegetables.
Yeah.
And in reality, dietitians have a lot of education behind us. I mean, we have to go through a lot of certifications and board exams and years of schooling to learn more of the science and metabolism of disease states and what is actually going on in our body, and how food and medications, stress, sleep, how that all affects us. So I would love for over time people to give us a little bit more credit, I guess, for what we do, and realize that we're valuable in a lot of different aspects. So like, for instance, in the hospital setting right now with COVID-19, the dietitians are responsible for all the tube feeds and TPNs to keep the patients that are on ventilators alive.
Wow.
That's not my forte. That is not what I personally love to do as a dietitian, but we're just so versatile. We can go in so many different settings, like hospitals, schools, daycares, corporate wellness. There's so many different ways that you can utilize a dietitian.
Wow, that's really awesome to hear. I have to wonder, is there anything else that you wish could improve within your field? You'd mentioned a bunch. Or is that kind of what you just went through?
Kind of what I went through, but I would just emphasize more of employers and also like potential clients just putting more value in dietitians themselves. I say that only because there's so many people out there that claim themselves as nutritionists, and there's a big discrepancy between what a dietitian can do and what a nutritionist is able to do. And with all of, social media and Instagram out there now, with people claiming that they're experts in certain fields, it's really important to give the value to the people who are licensed to do these things. They have a lot more background and experience than the average nutritionist could provide to you. So giving us more value overall.
Yeah, absolutely. That's great to point out. Do you see, or do you wish to see dietitians being referred to more when it comes to people having chronic issues? Do you feel like...
Hello.
Hey, we're back. And we're still recording. Sorry about that. I will make sure that that's edited.
That's okay.
I don't know what happened. Were you on the whole time?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So I must have just got bumped off. I'm sorry. I forget what we were saying. I got so distracted by that.
I think we were just touching base on what kind of changes I would want to see within the field.
Right.
Touch base on just like the value of
Oh,
of
yes. Yeah.
dietitian.
Did you catch what I was saying about physicians at all? Did I get to that
Uh-uh.
part? Okay.
Nope.
Um, all right. So, okay. And so do you wish, or do you hope to see that in the future, people will, or physicians or people will go speak with dietitians about maybe chronic issues that, may not get referred to you as early on, to maybe help prevent or help um, reduce the intensity of issues that they're having?
Absolutely. Yeah. So as far as physicians go, or any sort of doctor's office, I definitely think that dietitians are considered on like the low end of the totem pole.
Mm.
Um, and there's a discrepancy usually between physicians recommending medication and not feeling the need to refer out to a dietitian, and dietitians wanting to use food more so as medicine and supplements versus putting patients on prescribed medications.
Mm-hmm.
So developing a healthier relationship between doctors and dietitians, I definitely think is very important. Like eventually putting more dietitians straight in office for doctors' offices to refer straight out to would be wonderful, but it's a very, very slow progression to have that happen. And I think because dietitians are not seen as valuable as we should be, we're not getting the amount of referrals that we probably need to be getting through private practice and outpatient settings. And people are being affected by it. They're just being put on prescription medications and they're on them forever. And no one's really there to coach them, to help them with diet and exercise, and to get them off of these medications. It's kind of just this like back and forth in the healthcare industry, I would say.
Yeah. Yeah. Besides having dietitians within the practices, what other ways can, you or I, or even people listening to this, promote that relationship and kind of try and get it down the line where it is more of an established relationship, and it's not as, hopefully people aren't as heavy to um, quickly prescribe medication versus prescribing or referring to a dietitian? What do you think could be done?
For now, I think networking and having referral partners as much as humanly possible in different areas of healthcare, I think is great.
Mm-hmm.
So for me as a dietitian to, have a physical therapist, have a chiropractor, have a personal trainer, have a, holistic practitioner, have different people available who know who you are so
Mm-hmm.
that they can refer to you
Mm-hmm.
is ideal.
Yeah.
It's again, a slow progression because I don't think a dietitian is like the first thing that comes to people's minds when they're referring somebody out. But I think over time, and the more well-established you are as a dietitian and you are as a practice as a whole, I think
Mm-hmm.
it's going to get more successful in the long term.
Yeah. Curious on your thought with this. Do you feel like, even in your field, do you feel like you were exposed enough to other professions in school? And do you feel like other professions in school could benefit from being exposed to dietitians, physical therapists, chiropractors, whatever it is, kind of intertwining, interrelating so that you can get to know? Do you think that that would be helpful for that?
Absolutely. I don't think I received enough of that in school. I don't think I really touched base on any of that, like interlinking of different professions until I started working.
Yeah. And it is so important because, I mean, the body isn't just one lane. It's multiple things going on at once, and you do need to work as a team to really help people kind of get to where they want to be health wise.
Yeah, I absolutely agree.
What are some things that you are doing to keep your body healthy, and what are some things that you're doing to push health and wellness in the community as well?
Yeah. So during this quarantine, life is a little bit different right now. So on a regular basis, non-quarantine related activities aside, I am a big gym goer. I recently got into Orange Theory Fitness, which
Oh,
is
cool.
a kind of like a boutique gym.
Yeah.
Um, but started doing that for a few weeks, and then coronavirus hit, so they had to
Mm,
shut down. So I love lifting weights. I love going to the gym. I love sports. So I'm playing tennis. I'm playing softball outside. I challenge myself to run a couple 5Ks throughout the year.
that's great.
Um, that's kind of me normally. Now, since we're home, I've really been trying to get outside more. So I set like walking and running challenges for myself every month to make sure I'm staying active, from a cardiovascular standpoint. I'm doing a lot more yoga at home. I'm, doing more exercise, fitness related videos. So like I highly recommend the Peloton app right now. It's free access until I think July. But they have all kinds of cool stuff to check out on there. You don't need a bike or a Peloton treadmill. You can do things all body weight, really. So I've just kind of been exploring and dabbling in different things that I normally don't get time to do because I'm either at my desk with patients, or I'm training them, or I'm driving somewhere to do corporate
Mhm.
wellness. So, it's kind of been really interesting over the past month because I've had more time to focus on my needs and
Mhm.
my interests and my hobbies. So it's been kind of fun, different and fun at the same time
Yeah.
over the past month.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing that I'm sure people don't always recognize, is that we're in the trenches with them with when it comes to time and trying to take care of ourselves. You're working a busy job, you're going out and doing networking, and then you have to meal prep and cook dinner, or get to the gym and do your exercise each day. And so
Yeah.
it's great to have people like yourself being leaders in the community to not only talk the talk, but walk the walk. So that's great. So you said you enjoy softball and tennis. I saw that you have a cat in the background. Um,
Oh,
what other things, besides your family and friends and nutrition? What's one other thing that you'd say that you're really passionate about, um, that keeps you going each day?
yeah. Well, you already saw one of my cats, I guess, is in the background here, but I have two cats and a dog. I'm a huge, huge animal lover. So that's one of my passions in life. If I had the space and the finances for it, I would own like a whole animal farm and own like a million animals. So big animal lover, big supporter of adopting and rescuing animals. I also am a big sports lover, like I already mentioned. So one of the things I'm trying to do, and this is, I guess, once quarantine stops, is I have a goal of trying to visit all of the MLB stadiums
Oh, cool.
throughout the country. I believe I'm at 12 stadiums right now.
Very cool.
Um, and I go to spring training every year. So I'm clearly a big baseball lover.
Yeah.
Um, and I also love to travel. So I haven't been to Europe or Asia yet. I'm more like local United States
Mhm.
traveling right now. But super excited to get back into traveling
Yeah.
once all of the bans are lifted. Um, we have a honeymoon in November, fingers crossed, to St.
Congratulations.
Lucia. So I'm very excited to go there.
That's great.
Um, so yeah, I try and keep everything as well-rounded as humanly possible.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, I don't want to put you in a box, uh, but when you travel, is it, do you really enjoy going and trying the different foods, or is it the history and the energy of different places?
I like trying the new foods, but I wouldn't honestly say that's my priority.
Mhm.
I'm more of the exploring, relaxation kind of person.
Yeah.
So I'm more about the energy of where I'm at and, trying new adventures
Yeah.
versus like focusing in on the food. And probably the reason for that is I spend most of my days
Yeah.
thinking about food all
Yeah.
the
You need a
time.
break from food.
Yeah, so a vacation for me is like let me focus on something different.
That's great. That's great. And I've been asking this of a lot of people. This can be nutrition, this can be business, this can be whatever you want. This can be personal or just for fun, fiction, nonfiction. But what are some books that you would recommend or gift regularly so that you can just provide something really nice for people?
Yeah. So if I kind of broke down these books by category. So they're a little random, but I'm a big self-help book person, from a business standpoint and just like growing as a person.
Mm-hmm.
And right now I'm super into the Rachel Hollis books. So Girl Wash Your Face and Girl Stop Apologizing. I think they're amazing books. I love her podcast too. I love her Rise conferences that she does. I'm just a big Rachel Hollis fan right now.
Cool.
So as far as self-help goes, I would recommend those books. If you're looking for a good laugh, I am really into female comedians as well. So Amy Schumer, Amy Poehler, Tina Fey, they all have books out.
Mm-hmm.
They're all hysterical. So if you're looking for a good laugh, I would highly recommend reading one of their books. My favorite book of all time is The Notebook by Nicholas Sparks. Probably sounds completely random, but if you're just looking for like a relaxed book on the beach or something like that, I love that book. I love the movie. I think it's a great option.
That's awesome. Is there anything else relating to wellness, health, diet, fitness, life that you'd like to touch on before we finish up?
My biggest piece of advice before we wrap up would just be, it's so important to develop that consistency and community and support network if you're looking to achieve a goal. So for anybody listening out there, if you're struggling with something nutrition or fitness related or health related, and you seem like you're a hamster on a wheel, you can't really get going with that goal, or you keep yo-yoing back and forth, I would really, really encourage you to find a health professional or a group of health professionals to support you in this and keep you accountable and help you with your goal setting. I know it might seem easy to do on your own, like, oh, why would I hire somebody to help me with that? I can do that all on my own. But in reality, when you have somebody supporting you like that, you're thinking more outside the box, you're challenging yourself more. Highly, highly recommend it. And also because of the times that we're in right now with this COVID-19 crisis, I mean, I know life is not normal right now for most of us. We feel like our lives are flipped upside down. I'm helping most people right now trying to create that new normal, create a new level of consistency, create new patterns. It's not the time to throw in the towel right now. We need to continue to work on our health and our wellness and focus on something positive to keep moving us in the right direction. Just because we're stuck at home does not mean that we just have to put everything on the wayside right now. We could still be working towards those goals.
That's a great message. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah, you're welcome.
So if anybody wanted to get in touch with you to ask you questions, to follow up on anything they may have heard on the podcast today, to learn about your services, what is the best way for them to do that? How can they get a hold of you?
Sure. So my company website is www.fueledandfit.us. I'm also very active on social media, so you can find Fueled and Fit LLC on Facebook. You can also find me on Instagram. I'm at Fueled and Fit LLC. And feel free to directly email me as well. My email address is ashley@fueledandfit.us.
Awesome. Thank you so much again. Really, really awesome to talk to you and dive into some of the topics that we got into and get to know you a little bit better for the audience. I hope again, potentially talk again someday about maybe some more specific in the trenches about some diet and wellness stuff. But for now, thank you so much. And I hope everybody enjoyed. And for now, be well and thrive.